Karamat.
Okay, good morning, everyone. I hope we are all doing fine and we had a good weekend. So there is another week of learning, and I want us to proceed from where we stopped last time. In our last class, we were looking at the topic cell physiology, and I believe we were able to finish it on Monday last week. I advised the students who did not understand some of the concepts in that topic to try and reach me, and or maybe they could also reach their teachers, and I hope you did that. So that does not mean that if you still have challenges on that topic, you just need to be quiet. I still advise that if you still find some of the areas that we looked at in the previous topic maybe challenging, you can still try out. And reach us. We will be able to assist you where necessary. So, like I promised last time, we are looking at a new topic today, and this is nutrition in plants and animals. Nutrition in plants and animals. So, nutrition in plants and animals is the last topic in Form 1. So this is the topic that you all looked at as your final topic in biology in Form 1. I'm just trying to edit something on my heading there. Okay, thank you. Okay, so nutrition in plants and animals is going to be our topic of study starting today. I know we may not be able to look at everything today, but we are hopeful that when we open the school, we will be able to proceed from where we will stop today, because I know this is going to be our last class for the term. So I want to urge all of us to participate. Do not be left out. If you do not understand anything, feel free to ask. Do not be left behind. Let us take advantage of this and learn. Let us learn from what you're going to look at today. So thank you and welcome to our class. So today we are looking at nutrition in plants and animals. Now, nutrition, as we all know, nutrition is one of the characteristics of living organisms. All living organisms have this characteristic called nutrition. That is both plants and animals. And nutrition is a very, very important characteristic that enables all living things to acquire energy. And when you talk about nutrition, nutrition refers to the process by which living organisms obtain and assimilate nutrients. Now, when I talk about the word obtain also means acquire. Obtain also means, the word obtain can also be referred as acquire. So we can say the process by which living organisms obtain or acquire and assimilate or utilize nutrients. So nutrition is that process by which all the living things, both plants and animals, they obtain or acquire. Then after obtaining or acquiring, they assimilate or utilize the nutrients within their bodies. And like you can see, I have added there that it is one of the fundamental characteristics of living organisms. It is one of the basic characteristics of living organisms. So nutrition is that it actually enables organisms to acquire. Once they have acquired, they utilize, they make use of the already acquired nutrients within their bodies. So the nutrients obtained by the living organisms are useful in very many ways. And these ways include, number one, the nutrients are required for growth and development of the living organisms. So the living things acquire and utilize nutrients, which helps them, which they use for growth and development. Remember, growth and development is also another characteristic or feature of living organisms. They all grow and develop after some time. So by them acquiring nutrients, the nutrients that they acquire, they utilize it for the purpose of growth and development within their bodies. That is why you are able to see that at one particular time, living organisms have got small body sizes. But after some time, maybe days, weeks, months, or even years, their body sizes increases. This is an evidence that growth and development occurs within the body of organisms. And we believe that it is made possible by the nutrients that they acquire and utilize. Apart from that, the nutrients that are acquired and utilized by organisms are also required for the provision of energy as they break down to release energy. So the nutrients are usually, after they have been acquired, once the living organisms have acquired nutrients, they break down the nutrients to release energy. And this is made possible by a process called respiration. So respiration is another characteristic of all living organisms. They respire. So respiration is that process by which the living organisms break down food materials or nutrients to release energy. It's a chemical process. So for the living organisms to obtain energy, then there must be nutrients from the food that they eat. Another importance of the nutrients that are obtained and utilized by living organisms is the nutrients are required for the repair of worn-out tissues. The living organisms require nutrients so that they can repair some of their worn-out tissues and even some of their cells, the cells that die. For them to acquire new cells, then there must be a process called cell division. The process of cell division requires a lot of energy. So energy that is obtained from the nutrients, energy that living organisms obtain from the nutrients can be used to repair some of their worn out tissues. And I want to believe that you all know what we mean by the word tissues, what tissues are. So when the tissues wear out, they are replaced or repaired. So the process of repairing the worn out tissues requires nutrients. So the nutrients are also used to repair. They are also required for the repair of worn out tissues. And then finally, nutrients are required for the synthesis of very vital micromolecules in the body, such as hormones and enzymes. Hormones and enzymes are macromolecules which are very, very important, and they are required by the living organisms. So for hormones and enzymes to be synthesized, the nutrients must be available. So hormones and enzymes are synthesized for the synthesis of hormones and enzymes requires the availability of nutrients. So nutrients have to be availed by the living organisms so that they can synthesize hormones and enzymes. So those are some of the importance of nutrients that are obtained through the process of nutrition. So once again, we have defined nutrition as the process by which living organisms obtain or acquire and assimilate or utilize nutrients. So they first obtain, after obtaining, they acquire. These nutrients that are obtained and utilized, they are utilized to perform several functions, which we have looked at, about 4 of them. So nutrition can occur in different ways depending on the organisms. So the various ways in which nutrition occurs are referred to as the modes of nutrition. So when we talk about the modes of nutrition, like I said, we have got various modes of nutrition depending on the types of organisms. For instance, we have 2 main modes of nutrition. That is, we have what is called autotrophism and heterotrophism. We are going to be able to look at what each and everyone, what each of these modes of nutrition mean. So I just want you to understand that we have got various modes of nutrition depending on the type of organism. So the next thing that I want us to look at is the modes of nutrition. We have 2 main modes of nutrition, and this is autotrophism and heterotrophism. Now, autotrophism refers to the mode of nutrition through which living organisms manufacture their own food from simple inorganic substances in the environment, such as carbon dioxide, water, and mineral ions. So when you talk about autotrophism, the organisms that make their own food through this mode of nutrition are referred to as the autotrophs. And the word autotrophs is outlined here on my screen. I believe you can all see the spelling, autotrophs. So just to make you understand what we mean by autotrophism, autotrophism is that mode of nutrition through which living organisms manufacture their own food. Now, the key word to note here is their own food from simple inorganic substances in the environment. And these simple inorganic substances which are available in the environment include carbon dioxide, water, and mineral ions. So organisms that make their own food through this mode of nutrition, like I said, are referred to as autotrophs. And examples include the plants. We know that the plants are the only living organisms that have got the ability to manufacture their own food from simple inorganic substances which are available in their environment, such as carbon dioxide, water, and mineral ions. They may also use other raw materials which are also available in their environment. Now, having looked at what autotrophism is, I just want to mention what heterotrophism is, but after this, we're going to be able to look at each and everyone, each of these modes of nutrition in details. So when you talk about heterotrophism, this is a mode of nutrition in which living organisms depend on already manufactured food materials from other living organisms. So the keyword to note here is that the mode of nutrition in which living organisms depend on the already manufactured food. Now, for this case, they don't manufacture their own food, but they depend on those food materials that have already been manufactured by other organisms. The food materials that have already been manufactured by other organisms are the ones that are consumed by the heterotrophs. So heterotrophs are the organisms that feed on the already manufactured food materials. We call them heterotrophs. Okay. So these are the 2 main modes. These are the 2 main nutrition modes. We have autotrophism and heterotrophism. Now, it is important to note the differences between these 2 modes of nutrition. As we continue looking into details, these are modes of nutrition. We will be able to see that there are different types of each mode of nutrition. For instance, when we'll be looking at heterotrophism, we have got different types of heterotrophs. So when we get there, we'll be able to understand how they differ from one another. Okay. So I want us to proceed and look into details what autotrophism is. Now, autotrophism. I want to believe that you can be able to see what is projected on my screen. So when we talk about autotropism, like I said, in this mode of nutrition, organisms manufacture their own food from readily available materials in the environment. So the materials that that the organisms use to manufacture their food, they are freely available in the environment. So it is from these inorganic materials that the autotrophs synthesize or manufacture their food. So these organisms use energy to combine carbon dioxide, water, and mineral salts in complex reactions to manufacture food substances. So the aspect of energy is brought in again, and you can see that the autotrophs, or these organisms that manufacture their own food from readily available materials, they use energy to combine the locally available inorganic materials. So energy is used to combine the materials such as carbon dioxide, water, and mineral salts in complex reactions so that they can finally manufacture the food substances. Okay, so this energy can either be obtained directly from the sun, the light energy that is, or the energy can be obtained from chemical reactions which occurs in the body, in the bodies of organisms. So when we talk about the energies that are used, when we talk about the energies that are used to combine these locally or the inorganic materials available in the environment, then we find two different types of autotrophism. So if you look at my screen, I have stated clearly there that depending on the source of energy used to manufacture the food, there are two types of autotrophism. So I mentioned earlier that this energy that is used to combine carbon dioxide, water, and mineral salts in the complex reactions can either be obtained from the sun, and that is the sunlight energy, or it can be obtained from the chemical reactions, which we know occur inside the bodies of organisms. So first, we have what is called chemosynthesis. Now, chemosynthesis is a type of autotropism. And chemosynthesis is defined as, it is the process whereby some organisms utilize energy derived from chemical reactions in their bodies to manufacture food from simple substances in the environment. I will repeat the definition again so that you can be able to understand. Now, chemosynthesis, it is a mode, or it is a type of autotropism whereby some organisms utilize energy derived from chemical reactions in their bodies to manufacture food from simple substances in the environment. So the energy which they use to combine the inorganic substances is obtained, the energy is obtained from the chemical reactions which occur inside their bodies. And examples of organisms which undergo this mode of nutrition include bacteria. And we say that the bacteria, we know that they lack the sun-trapping chlorophyll molecule. So because they do not have the chlorophyll, they use, and we know the role of chlorophyll in organisms. Chlorophyll is contained in the chloroplast, and it is used to trap sunlight energy. So because the bacteria do not have the chloroplasts, what they do is that they acquire the energy from chemical reactions. So it is the energy from the chemical reactions, the one that they use to combine the locally available materials from the environment to manufacture food. So closely related to that is what we call photosynthesis. Photosynthesis is another type of autotropism. And photosynthesis can be defined as, okay, photosynthesis, I know it is very, very common because it is a very common process that occurs in the plants, that is the green plants. So these green plants, the reason why we call them green plants, and I believe we all know, is because of the presence of the presence of the green coloring matter, which is the chlorophyll. which is always found in the chloroplast. So photosynthesis occurs in the green plants. And we all know photosynthesis as the process by which organisms make their own food from simple substances in the environment, such as carbon dioxide and water, using sunlight energy. So if you look at photosynthesis and chemosynthesis, you now clearly see the difference. In photosynthesis, the energy that is used to combine the materials comes from the sun. While in chemosynthesis, we said that the energy is obtained from chemical reactions, which occur inside the bodies of those particular organisms. So once again, we have defined photosynthesis as the process by which organisms make their own food from simple substances in the environment, such as carbon dioxide and water, using sunlight energy. So these organisms that photosynthesize, or the organisms that manufacture their own food from simple substances using light energy, they are the green plants. Now, green plants are the most common. So we've also said there that such organisms, they often have chlorophyll, which traps the required sunlight energy. So chlorophyll here is very, very important because it is the one that helps these organisms to trap the sunlight energy. So this mode of nutrition is common in members of the kingdom Plantae. Now, I know at this point you have not been introduced to various kingdoms of classification, but then kingdom Plantae is the kingdom to which all plants belong. Apart from members of the kingdom Plantae, we also have other organisms that have got the ability to photosynthesize, and they include some protoctists and some bacteria which have the ability to photosynthesize. So it is not only the plants that photosynthesize, but we also have other protoctists and other bacteria which can also photosynthesize. So before I proceed, I saw somebody had raised his hand. I can't see him. I can't see the hand again. So maybe the question has been answered. But if there are questions, you can let me know as we proceed with the class. Do not be left behind. Great. So we will try and focus on photosynthesis because this is the most common mode of autotrophism. This is the most common type of autotrophism. So we'll start by looking at, we are going to be looking at the process of photosynthesis in details. And so we will start by looking at the importance of photosynthesis and some of the parts of the plants where photosynthesis takes place. Then from there, we will be able to look at the various parts of the leaf and how the leaf is adapted to carry out the function of photosynthesis. And then we will proceed and look at the process of photosynthesis in detail. So let us start by looking at the importance of photosynthesis. Now, like I said, photosynthesis is a very, very vital process that occurs in plants and in some protoctists and also in some bacteria. So photosynthesis as a process is important for the following reasons. Number one, we say that photosynthesis helps in the regulation of carbon dioxide and oxygen gases in the environment. Now we know that carbon dioxide and oxygen are both of them are gases which you know are available in the air. So it is always important to keep these gases at a balanced level. It is important to balance these gases because we know photosynthesis is a process which requires carbon dioxide. Actually, carbon dioxide is the gas that is involved in the process of photosynthesis. So when carbon dioxide is used up during the process of photosynthesis, oxygen is produced as a byproduct from the process. So if we have got high levels of carbon dioxide in the air, the carbon dioxide will be used up, so the levels will reduce. When we have got low levels of oxygen in the air, we know that when photosynthesis occurs, oxygen will be produced, and that means that after some time, the level of oxygen in the air, in the atmosphere will increase. So you can see that brings about the balancing of the levels of carbon dioxide and oxygen in the atmosphere in the environment. Apart from that, photosynthesis enables autotrophs or it enables those particular living organisms to make their own food. Thus, they meet the nutritional requirements. So we know there are living organisms, specifically the plants, the green plants, that is, green plants, some protocysts and some bacteria, which depend on the process of photosynthesis as a means of acquiring the nutrients. So that is why we are saying that photosynthesis enables autotrophs to make their own food, and therefore they are able to meet the nutritional requirements. And I want to believe that you are writing something down, because some of these notes, I obtained them from different sources, and they may not be available on some of the textbooks that you're using. So it is important to just add some of the things or some of the points you feel are necessary. Do not just sit and watch. Make sure you're putting down some of the important points that you get here. Then another importance of photosynthesis, we say that photosynthesis converts sunlight energy into a form or into chemical energy that can be utilized by other organisms that are unable to manufacture their food. So basically, as we proceed with this topic, you'll be able to realize that photosynthesis is the main source of energy. I mean, it is the process that avails energy to the plants, and plants pass that energy to other organisms. So the energy that is the main source of energy that is used in the process of photosynthesis comes from the sun. So the sunlight energy. This sunlight energy cannot be directly used. It cannot be directly used by other organisms. For instance, the animals. So the animals obtain the energy from the sunlight energy in another form. So the sunlight energy is converted into a chemical form or into chemical energy, and the chemical energy can be utilized by other organisms which are unable to manufacture their own food. So when we get to the next mode of nutrition, you'll be able to understand how the energy transfer occurs. Okay? So we think that photosynthesis largely occurs in a leaf. However, we know that there are also other plants which are able to photosynthesize through their stems. So in most cases, we are or commonly the part of the plant that takes part in photosynthesis is the leaves. So that is why we're saying that photosynthesis largely occurs in the leaves. And to understand the process of photosynthesis, it is important to understand the leaf structure. So because the process of photosynthesis largely or mainly occurs through the leaves, it is important to understand the leaf structure, the structure of the leaf. So we will be able to look at the external structure of the leaf and the internal structure of the leaf. Thereafter, we'll be able to look at how the leaves are adapted to the process of photosynthesis. So let us start by looking at the external leaf structure. The external leaf structure. Now we think that externally, the leaf has a petiole, or what we call the leaf stalk. So the leaf has a petiole through which it attaches itself to a leaf branch on the stem. It also has what we call the lamina, which is the broad flat surface. It has what we call the leaf margin, and the leaf margin is the outline, or the leaf outline, and then we have what the leaf apex. So just in less than 3 minutes, allow me just to sketch. Sketch a structure here of a leaf so that you can be able to see the various parts. Okay. So I'm trying to, on my screen, I'm trying to sketch a simple diagram of a leaf. I believe you can all see it. Good. So I believe you can all see this. We have got the various parts of the leaf, the external parts of the leaf, and we have this part. We have this part. We have got these parts. Let me just put them to be many so that you can be able to see that. Then we have got this midline here. Then you have this other part. So we have got this surface, the broad surface here that I'm trying to shade here so that you can be able to get the difference. We have got this broad surface. Allow me just shade it so that it looks better. Okay, so if you look at this diagram here, I know it may not be very clear to some people, but I will just try and highlight the parts. So we have got this part here. This part here, this is called the leaf apex. Okay. Then we have this part here. This is called the leaf margin. Then we have got this part. This part is called the leaf stalk. The leaf stalk or the petiole. Okay. Then we have this part. This part is called the leaf vein. The leaf vein. Then we have got this midline here. The midline there is called the midrib. The midrib. Then we have got this broad surface here. The broad surface. I'll not be able to name it because it can confuse a good number of people, but let me just try and remove the very many things there. Okay. So if you look at this, the broad surface here, the broad surface is what is called the leaf lamina. The broad surface. It's the broad flat surface. It's called the leaf lamina. So these are the various parts. These are the various parts of the external parts. So the leaf stalk or the petiole is the part that this is the part through which the leaf attaches itself on maybe the branch or the main stem. The leaf attaches itself to the branch or the stem through the leaf stalk or what we call the petiole. Then you have got the leaf vein. The leaf vein, we have got the leaf veins, which are extensive networks, extensions, which run on the surface of the leaf, on the lamina. So the leaf veins vary depending on the type of plants. We have got plants which have got what we call the network leaf venations, or we also have other plants which have got what we call the parallel leaf venations. So the leaf, we have got different types of veins in different types of plants. And we will get to know more of that when you get to Form 3 in the topic classification. So just note that we have got various types of leaf veins. It can either be a network leaf vein or parallel leaf vein. So the one you're seeing on my screen here, this is an example of a network leaf venation, which is common in plants like beans, green grams, groundnuts, basically in the dicotyledons. Then you have this part. Okay, I just wanted to mention that inside the leaf veins, that is where we have got the vascular bundles. The vascular bundles, that is the phloem and the xylem. They are usually found inside the the leaf vein. The vascular bundles are found inside the leaf vein, and we'll be able to see the functions of the vascular bundles which are found inside the leaf veins. Then we have this part called the leaf apex, the tip of the leaf. It is called the leaf apex, and then we have the leaf margin. Okay, great. So I think that is all about the external structure of the leaf. That is all about the external structure of the leaf. Maybe if there is any question, I can be told so we don't leave anyone behind. Okay. So back to where we are, we said that externally, the leaf has a petiole through which it attaches itself to the branch or stem. It also has a lamina, which is a broad flat surface. It has a margin on the outline, and then it has got the leaf apex. Now, the leaf veins, as you can see, it is have not been included here, but this is because in some plants it is difficult to see the leaf veins, but in most plants you'll be able to see the leaf veins. Okay. The leaf margin can be smooth. It can be smooth or whole, or it can be dented. It can be serrated, or it can be entire. In the next slide, I'll be able to show you the diagrams of these various types of leaf margins. It can we have got the smooth leaf margin, the dented leaf margin, the serrated leaf margin, or the entire leaf margin. Okay. So the size of a leaf depends on its environment. We have leaf sizes usually vary from one environment to another. And that is why we're saying that plants in arid areas have got small size leaves with the sum of the leaves reduced to needle-like shape. And I know you've seen the likes of the pines, the thorny plants, their leaves have been reduced to needle-like shapes. And this helps them to reduce the rate of water loss or to reduce the rate of transpiration. However, plants in areas of water abundance have got broad leaves. This is meant to enable them lose extra water or excess water. So this is another way in which the leaves are adapted to various environments. And I know this. You looked at this in back in school. I remember we looked at this a topic in Form 2, transport in plants and animals. We were able to look at some of the adaptations or how the plants reduce the rate of transpiration. That one was well done. So this diagram here, the diagrams you're seeing on my screen, they show the different types of leaf margin. The different types of leaf margin. So we have what is called the entire leaf margin, as you can see. This is called an entire leaf margin. This is the next one is shows the serrated leaf margin. Serrated leaf margin, it looks like this. Then we have got crenate leaf margin. Crenate leaf margin, it looks like this. Do not confuse crenate with serrated. Then you have got what is called the lobed leaf margins. As you can see, the margins are lobed. They are lobe shaped here, the lobed leaf margin. And then we have got what is called the parted leaf margin. So if you look at parted is almost similar to lobed. But then if you see the way the margins look, there's a big difference. So this is called parted leaf margins. This is lobed leaf margin, crenate leaf margin, serrated leaf margin, and entire leaf margins. Okay. Yeah. Okay, I want just before we look at the internal structure of the leaf. Okay, let us just okay. I think we should look now. Let us look at the internal structure of the leaf, the internal leaf structure, and I have just displayed a diagram of the internal structure of the leaf. This is a very, very common area for examination, and I think you have always seen that. It is important to know the various parts of the internal leaf structure, starting from the upper epidermis. And I want you to look at clearly the upper epidermis. If the upper epidermis here, we can see that the upper epidermis has got some organelles. Okay, the upper epidermis is made up of cells, as you can see. Inside the cells here, we have got some cell organelles that look like, I don't know what to call them, but just you can see you've got some internal organelles there. Then next to the, okay, before you get to the upper epidermis are covered using the cuticle. As you see, we have got the cuticle here. The cuticle is, it encloses the upper epidermis. And in most cases, the cuticles are usually transparent. They are transparent. Actually, they allow for the passage, or they allow for light to pass through into the internal parts of the leaf. So the cuticle is this transparent layer that is usually found on top of the epidermis. So from the cuticle here, we have got the upper epidermis. The upper epidermis are bordered by the mesophyll cells. The mesophyll cells. Now, mesophyll cells, meso means middle. The word meso, let me just annotate that. The word meso, I can't write using my, unfortunately, I can't write using my. So when you talk about meso means middle, while phyll means leaf. So when you see the word mesophyll, just know that it refers to the middle leaf. So the middle leaf here, or the mesophyll cells, we have got two types of mesophyll cells. We have what is called the Palisade mesophyll cells and the Spongy mesophyll cells. So Spongy and Palisade mesophyll cells are these cells which are found in the middle part of the leaf. That is why we have the word mesophyll. So I think it is important to just elaborate that for you. Okay. So the mesophyll cells, as you can see, the cells of the cells found in the mesophyll cells, they have got a lot of chloroplasts. Like you can see, we have got several chloroplasts in the Palisade mesophyll cells. That tells you that the process of photosynthesis can occur in the Palisade mesophyll cells because of the presence of chloroplasts, which we know contain the chlorophyll. Then, if you look again at the Spongy mesophyll cells, the Spongy mesophyll cells, they also have chloroplasts. But if you compare the number of chloroplasts which are found in the Spongy mesophyll cells, they are fewer as compared to that of the Palisade mesophyll cells. So I want you to think of a question in this area. Why do you think we have got several chloroplasts in the Palisade mesophyll cells as compared to Spongy mesophyll cells? I would want someone to answer that question. I can see Ernest Mumo. Let me hope you are ready to answer the question. Hello, Ernest.
The reason why there are more chloroplasts in the Palisade mesophyll cells instead of the Spongy mesophyll cells is because the Palisade mesophyll cells are located in an area which they can receive maximum sunlight for maximum absorption of chloroplast, while for the Spongy mesophyll, all their function is just to provide a large surface area for the diffusion of gases. Yes, good. Or for gaseous exchange.
Thank you very much, Ernest. I think that is very right. Allow me to mute you. Good. So the reason why we have got the reason why we have the Palisade mesophyll cells have got a lot of chloroplast is because they're located next to the upper epidermis, or next to the upper part of the leaf, which receives maximum sunlight. And so when they have the presence of many chloroplasts inside the Palisade mesophyll cells enables them to trap maximum sunlight, which is used for the process of photosynthesis. So even their location here should tell you that they trap maximum sunlight because they are located next to the upper epidermis, and this is an area which receives maximum sunlight. So the very many chloroplasts here contain chlorophyll, which traps maximum sunlight. Okay, so it is also important to note that if you look at the Palisade mesophyll cells, they are fence-like. In other words, they are held close to each other. They are held close to each other, And if you compare the spongy mesophyll cells, from the word spongy, it's like a sponge. You know what a sponge is? Yeah, so there are several air spaces. There are several spaces which are created by the loose. Several spaces are created in between. And then as you can see, inside the sponge mesophyll cells, we have got the vascular bundles. We have got the vascular bundle here. And like I said, the vascular bundle are found inside the veins. So this is a structure of the vein that you can see here. This is a structure of the vein. So inside the vein here is where we have got the vascular bundle. And the vascular bundle is made of the xylem and the phloem. Xylem and phloem. Now, if I may ask, what is the function of these vascular bundles? What is the function of xylem and phloem? What is the function of phloem and xylem? Mugambi, just a minute, I'm finding you. Yes, Mugambi, are you there?
Yes.
Yes.
The xylem allows the transportation of water through the leaf, and
yes.
and the phloem allows the one that transports the food in the leaf.
Transports?
The phloem is the one that transports food in the leaf.
Good. So you're saying xylem transports water, while phloem, water and mineral salts, and phloem transports food, okay?
It's the one that transports food.
Okay, so thank you. Let me just mute you again. So when we talk about xylem and phloem, I can see two people have raised their hands. I don't know whether you wanted to answer the same question, or you have other questions. You can let me know. Now, when you talk about xylem, xylem is a vascular bundle that is responsible for the transportation of water from other parts of the plant, from the roots through the stem into the leaves, where the process of photosynthesis actively occurs. Okay, so it transports water and mineral salts to the leaves, while the phloem here is very, very important. It helps in the translocation or transportation of the already manufactured food from the leaves to other parts of the plants where the food is required. So that is all about the vascular bundles, the phloem and the xylem. And then if you look again, in the lower part here, we have got the lower epidermis. And as you can see on the lower epidermis, the cells of the lower epidermis, they surround the guard cells here. And we know what the guard cells are, the bean-shaped cells, which regulate the closing and opening of the stomata. We call them the guard cells. Then, of course, this space here is called the intercellular space, the intercellular air space, which is used for the storage, the temporary storage of air. So the guard cells, as you can see them, this space in between the guard cells is called the stoma. The stoma. If they're many, we call them the stomata, okay? Stoma or stomata if they're many. Then the lower epidermal cells here, they're also covered by a cuticle. So cuticle again is sometimes found enclosing the lower epidermal cells. The lower epidermal cells are enclosed by the cuticle. Okay. Yeah. So having looked at that, having looked at the various parts, now I just want to stress again that it is important to know the various parts of the internal structure of the leaf and their functions. So I want us to look at the various functions of these parts very fast. We'll start by looking at the epidermis, but you know that before the epidermis, on the external part, you have got the cuticles. The cuticles, one, they are transparent and they allow for the easy penetration of light energy. That is the cuticle. And apart from that, It also protects the upper the epidermal cells. It offers protection to the epidermal cells. And in some cases, the cuticles also allow for the process of transpiration to occur. And we talk about the cuticular transpiration, and we looked at that in Form 2. Cuticular transpiration occurring through the cuticles. Okay. Yeah. So when you get to the epidermis, we have got both the upper and the lower epidermis, and the epidermis is the outer layer of cells, which are normally one cell thick. They are usually made up of one cell, so we say they are one cell thick. The outer layer of cells, which are usually one cell thick, it is found in both the upper and the lower surfaces. So the ones which are found on the upper surface are called the upper epidermal cells, or the upper epidermis. The one found on the lower surface is called the lower epidermis. Okay. Then the cells are arranged end to end. The cells are arranged end to end, from one end to the other, both on the upper surface and on the lower surface. The epidermis offers protection and maintains the shape of the leaf. The epidermis offers protection and it maintains the shape of the leaf. It is covered by a layer of cuticle which reduces evaporation, or which reduces the rate of water loss. That is the function of the cuticle. It reduces the rate of water loss or evaporation of water. Okay. Now, when we get, okay, I just want to also add there that when you talk about the epidermis, usually we do not have stomata can be found in both. Stomata can be found in both upper and lower epidermis. In most plants, I mean, this depends on the environment in which the plant is found. You find that in certain environments, the plants, in dry environment, for instance, plants do not have their stomata on the upper epidermis, but they're usually found in the lower epidermis. While in those plants that are growing in areas with a lot of water, they have got their stomata. In fact, their stomata are evenly spread on the upper epidermis, and very little or none at all is found on the lower epidermis. So that is all about the epidermis. Okay. The leaf mesophyll. The leaf mesophyll consists of the palisade layer, which is next to the upper epidermis, and the spongy layer, which is next to the lower epidermis. When you talk about the palisade mesophyll layer, the palisade mesophyll layer, the cells in the palisade mesophyll layer are elongated and are arranged close to each other, leaving narrow air spaces. That is why, if you look at let me just show you the diagram again. If you look at this diagram here, look at the palisade mesophyll cells. The layers of these cells are arranged close to each other. They're leaving very narrow air spaces, as you can see. Narrow air spaces are left in between the cells. They look like fans. Okay. The palisade mesophyll cells contain numerous chloroplasts, and they are the main photosynthetic cells. The palisade mesophyll layer are the main photosynthetic. They're the main photosynthetic cells. Okay. That is about the palisade mesophyll cells. They are the main photosynthetic cells. Now, in most plants, the chloroplasts are distributed fairly uniformly throughout the cytoplasm. In certain plants growing in shaded habitats or in dim light, most chloroplasts migrate to the upper regions of the palisade cells in order to maximize absorption of limited light available. And that is why I asked, why do you think, that is the reason I asked, why do you think we have got several chloroplasts in the palisade mesophyll cells and fewer chloroplasts in the spongy mesophyll cells? And we answered that question. Okay. So just to stress on this point, in certain plants growing in shaded habitats or in habitats that have got dim light, the most chloroplasts migrate to the upper region of the palisade cells in order to maximize absorption of limited light available. Okay. When you look at the spongy mesophyll layer, the spongy mesophyll layer or cells, the cells there are spherical in shape. They are not like the palisade mesophyll cells. And then the cells there are loosely arranged with the large intercellular air spaces in between them. then the spaces are air-filled and are linked to the stomatal pores. The spaces there are filled with air, and then they are linked to the stomatal pores, which are found on the lower epidermis. Then the sponge mesophyll cells have fewer chloroplasts than the palisade mesophyll cells, and we have explained that. And then in the sponge mesophyll cells, that is the main site for gaseous exchange or for gas exchange, and photosynthesis also occurs in the tissues. But we know that the main site for photosynthesis is in the palisade mesophyll cells. However, photosynthesis can also occur in the sponge mesophyll cells because they also have the chloroplasts. Okay? And inside the sponge mesophyll cells, we said we have the vascular bundles. We have the vascular bundles, which are made up of the xylem and the phloem tissues. And we said that the function of the xylem is to transport water and mineral salts to the leaves. They transport water and mineral salts to the leaves, while the phloem transports food manufactured in the leaf to other parts of the plant and from storage organs to other parts. That is the function of the phloem. So the vascular bundles, just know that it is made up of the xylem and the phloem tissues. Great. So we have the adaptations of the leaf for photosynthesis. As you can see, I've not, on my notes do not cover all the parts, the internal parts of the leaf, but I tried and synthesized them when I was looking at the internal structure of the leaf. So I know some of you are who are making their own notes. You included some of the points I mentioned earlier. Okay. So just to remind you, it is important, just write what you hear, what you understand, write what you understand. And because of time, you may not be able to write everything you're seeing on my screen. Just write what you understand. Okay. Then I will share the notes with the form master, and you'll be able to share in all the WhatsApp groups so that each and every student can be able to access the notes which I'm using for my presentation today. I will share them with the form master and they'll be able to share with you today. So we're looking at the adaptations of the leaf for photosynthesis, how the leaf is adapted to the process of photosynthesis, okay? Adaptations of the leaf for photosynthesis. Now, the leaf has, the first adaptation is the presence of veins with vascular bundles. The leaf has got veins which contain the vascular bundles, and we said that the xylem vessels transports water for photosynthesis, while the phloem transports manufactured food from the leaves to other parts of the plant. So you can say that if you are to restructure this point so that it can come out like an adaptation, you can say the leaves have got veins which contain the vascular bundles, and that is the phloem and xylem. Say the function of the xylem and the one for the phloem. You can say the xylem vessels transport water for photosynthesis, while the phloem transports manufactured food from the leaves to other parts of the plant. The leaf lamina is thin. And the reason why it's thin is to allow for the penetration of light over a short distance to reach the photosynthetic cells. The leaf lamina is very thin to allow for the penetration of light over a short distance to reach the photosynthetic cells. It has got, the leaf lamina again is broad. The leaf lamina is broad. And the reason why it is broad is to provide a large surface area for the absorption of light and carbon dioxide. The leaf lamina is broad to provide a large surface area for maximum absorption of light and carbon dioxide. Okay. It has got a transparent cuticle and epidermal layer, which allows for the penetration of light to the mesophyll cells. It has got a transparent cuticle and epidermal layer, which allows light to penetrate to the mesophyll cells, okay? Then the palisade mesophyll cells are close to the upper epidermis for maximum absorption of light. Remember, the palisade mesophyll cells contain the chloroplasts. The chloroplasts contain chlorophyll. So the palisade mesophyll cells are close to the upper epidermis, and they contain a lot of chloroplasts for maximum light absorption. okay? The presence of numerous chloroplasts in the Palisade mesophyll cells traps maximum sunlight. So these 2 points are just close, they are related to each other. The first, the second one, and the third one. Then the chloroplasts contain chlorophyll that traps light energy. And I think I've mentioned that. Okay. The spongy mesophyll layer has large intercellular air spaces for gaseous exchange. And that is why we said that the spongy mesophyll cells, the cells of the spongy mesophyll cells, they're loosely packed, leaving a lot of air spaces in between. This allows for gaseous exchange to occur, okay? The presence of stomata for efficient gaseous exchange, that is to allow for the entry of carbon dioxide into the leaf and to allow for the exit of oxygen. And we said that the stomata are found, sometimes they're found in the upper epidermis, sometimes they're found in the lower epidermis. But in most cases, the stomata are found on the lower epidermis where they are located to reduce the rate of evaporation, okay? Then we talk of what is called the mosaic arrangement of leaves. If you look at the arrangement of leaves in plants, you'll find that the leaves are arranged in such a way to ensure that there is no overlapping of leaves. Hence, all the leaves are exposed to light. If you look at the leaves, if I unfortunately I do not have a diagram of the leaves here, but if I had a diagram of a tree, you'd be able to see that the trees are arranged in such a way that the leaves are exposed to receive light. The leaves do not overlap on each other. So we are saying that mosaic arrangement of leaves to ensure no overlapping of leaves. Hence, every leaf is exposed to light. Every leaf is exposed to light. Every leaf can get access to sunlight, okay? So those are some of the adaptations of the leaf to its function. Those are some of the adaptation of the leaf to its functions. So very first, I want us to look at the structure and functions of the chloroplast. The structure and functions of the chloroplast. The structure and function of the chloroplast, because this is the main organelle this is the organelle where photosynthesis takes place. This is the organelle where photosynthesis takes place. So it is important for us to understand the structure of the chloroplast and how it is adapted to its function. Just like we looked at the structure of the leaf, because it is in the leaf where photosynthesis occurs. So at this point, let us look at this diagram of the chloroplast. As you can see, the chloroplast looks like this. It looks like this. It is made of double membrane. We have got the outer membrane and the inner membrane. It has got the inner membrane and the chloroplast membrane is made up of the outer and the inner membrane, okay? Then inside here, we have got the lamella. The lamella consists of the granum and the intergrana. And then we have got the starch grain. Then, as you can see, the space here is called the stroma. And then you can see we also have some lipid globule here, some lipid droplet on the lipid globule, and the starch grain here. So we have the starch grain and the lipid droplet or the lipid globule. Now, in most cases, students tend to confuse. Most students confuse the lipid and the starch grain here. Note the differences. Note the differences. Look at the color shadings. In most cases, the dark one is always the lipid and the light one is the grain. They can use different colors, but note that the dark one is the lipid and the light one is the starch grain. Okay. So these are the various parts of the chloroplast. These are the various parts of the chloroplast. So we have this outer membrane. The outer membrane here, both the outer membrane and the inner membrane, they are permeable. They are permeable. They can allow for the movement of substances into the chloroplasts and out of the chloroplasts. That is why we are saying they are permeable, okay? So let us try and look at the various parts of the chloroplast in details. Now, chloroplasts are large organelles. They're usually 5 micrometers in diameter, and they're found in the cytoplasm of green plant, in the cytoplasm of green plant cells. They are visible under the microscope. They contain chlorophyll, which is a green pigment, and other carotenoids. which are yellow, orange, and red in color. Okay. Certain plants have got red or purple leaves due to the abundance of these other pigments. Those are the plants which have got red and purple leaves. It is because of the abundance or the availability of the carotenoids in larger amounts. The chlorophyll absorbs light energy and transforms it or changes it into chemical energy. The other pigments also absorb light, but only to pass it on to chlorophyll. Did not do the function of changing light energy into chemical energy. Other pigments, they can only absorb light energy. But what transforms or what changes the light energy to chemical energy is the chlorophyll. Okay. Each chloroplast is surrounded by two membranes, an outer membrane and an inner membrane. And inside each chloroplast, there are layers of membranes known as the lamella that are suspended in an aqueous matrix called the stroma. That space, which I said is called the stroma, it is made of an aqueous matrix. So the stroma there contains enzymes which are involved in photosynthesis. And at intervals, the lamella forms several layers of membranes that are grouped together to make a granum. But if they're many, we call them grana. Okay? Then the chlorophyll molecules are located in the granum. The chlorophyll molecules are located in the granum. Okay? Then each granum consists of a number of discs placed on each other. Each granum consists of a number of discs placed on each other, and this provides a large surface area to accommodate a large number of chlorophyll molecules, which absorbs light necessary for the process of photosynthesis. A question from, okay. I thought I saw some hand that was raised there, but it was a question. Okay. So Moses Carissa has a question. Oh, okay. Okay. Let us continue. Please make sure you use raise your hand if you have got a question. Do not play with the button there. Now, each granum consists of a number of, I think I mentioned that, but I just repeat it. Each granum consists of a number of discs which are placed on each other. This provides a large surface area to accommodate a large number of chlorophyll molecules which absorbs enough light necessary for the process of photosynthesis. Okay. And as you can see, there is a diagram of the chloroplast which we started by looking at earlier. So I want us to look at now the actual process of photosynthesis which occurs inside the chloroplast. Okay, there's a question here from two different people, and the questions are similar. Someone is asking, is it the lamella that forms the grana or the thylakoids? That is a question from Lewis Sange. And a question again from Lemi Mundia. Lemi Mundia is asking, is there a difference between the granum and a thylakoid disc? A thylakoid disc. Very good questions from Lewis Sange. Now, who is going to respond to the questions from Lewis Sange and Lemi Mundia? They are the same questions. Can I hear a response from Alan Juguna? Alan Juguna. Alan Juguna.
I'd like to point out the differences. So the lamellae is like the spaces in between the granum. Is that correct?
Could you please come on again?
The lamellae is the spaces in between the grana.
The space in between the granum.
Rest the thylakoid discs are like the individual parts, and the whole group is called the granum. If I'm not correct, me if I'm wrong.
Okay, that's a good child from Alan. Let me hear what Alan Masibo has to say. Alan Masibo, did you raise your hand? Okay, I saw Ernest's hand. Ernest, what do you have to say?
I've still not yet understood the difference between lamella and grana.
Oh, the lamella and the granum, eh?
Yes.
Okay. So we'll try and clarify that. I just want someone to give me a clear difference between the lamella and the thylakoid cells or discs. Okay, let me mute some noise from someone from someone the last someone would want to say something before we finally give the right answer. Okay. Okay, so the question was asking, is it the lamella that forms the grana or the thylakoid discs? Okay, so the lamella, there are spaces in between the granum. Okay, but the thylakoid discs, I think maybe I can show you them here in the diagram here. Just a minute. In this diagram, as you can see, if you look at the granum here, there are these things that look like discs, the ones that keep on forming on each other. They're called the thylakoid discs. Okay, so the lamella is just like the space. But what forms the granum? What forms the granum here is the thylakoid disc, as you can see. The discs which keep on compiling on each other, we call them the thylakoid discs. They're the ones that form the granum. Okay, so for those ones who are asking the question about, let me just refer to the question again. That was a question from Lemmy and I think Lewis Sange. Are you answered now? Okay, I believe you are. In my diagram, I think I did not show the thylakoid disc, but I think you have now seen what it is. Let me hear what question Ernest Momo has.
Spelling of the thylakoid disc.
Thylakoid disc. THY. Let me just write it here kindly. Just a minute. Can you see it on the screen, Ernest?
Yes.
Good. So that is the spelling of the word thylakoid. So that is basically about the structure of the chloroplast plus the various parts. So we'll get to know more about the functions of the various parts as we look into details the process of photosynthesis. Okay? And that is the next thing that we are looking at, the process of photosynthesis. Okay? Now, when we talk about photosynthesis, just like we said, photosynthesis is a common, it's a process. It's a life-sustaining process that occurs in the plants, the green plants, the ones that have got the chlorophyll, which is the green coloring pigment. And the process of photosynthesis, it requires some raw materials, and it occurs in the presence of when some conditions are availed. So we are saying that the process of photosynthesis it uses water and carbon dioxide gas as the raw materials. So if you are asked about the raw materials, know that the raw materials is water and carbon dioxide. Now, in some cases, you'll find people even including the likes of light energy or chlorophyll as raw materials. No, raw materials are, it is only water and carbon dioxide. Then the process, it occurs in the presence of light energy and chlorophyll. So if you look at this equation here, which is the equation for photosynthesis, you can see on the on this side where we have got the reactants. The reactants here shows the raw materials which are required for the process of photosynthesis to occur. And this is carbon dioxide and water. And it occurs in the presence of light energy and chlorophyll. And on the product side, we have the products which are formed from the materials, that is water and carbon dioxide. They give us glucose and oxygen. So the food substance that is formed is usually formed in the form of simple sugars, which are glucose. Okay, so glucose is the resulting food product, which is a simple sugar formed from the raw materials, which is carbon dioxide and water. It is important to note that the process of photosynthesis occurs in different stages or in different steps. So we will be looking at the different stages of photosynthesis, and this is the light stage and the dark stage. So the important processes that occurs in each of those stages. There's that one that occurs in the light stage, and there's another one that occurs in the dark stage. Okay. So if you look at this this equation here, it is also important to note the equation here, because you can be asked to write down the equation for photosynthesis. Write down the equation for photosynthesis. We have got carbon dioxide plus water in the presence of light energy and chlorophyll. See where we have the light energy and chlorophyll. You are supposed to write light energy and chlorophyll at this point. We have seen students who are writing carbon dioxide plus water plus light energy plus chlorophyll to give you glucose and oxygen. Note that light energy and chlorophyll are not raw materials. Okay, they are just but conditions which are available to facilitate the process. So the raw materials are the reactants here, water and carbon dioxide, while the products are glucose and oxygen. And as you can see, these are now like the chemical equation. 6 molecules of carbon dioxide reacting to 6 molecules of water to give you this number of this amount of glucose and 6 oxygen molecules. Okay. So the process, like I said, the process of photosynthesis occurs in a series of chemical reactions, which can be divided into 2 main stages. We have what is called the light stage, or light stage can also be called the light dependent stage. Then we have what is called the dark stage, or the light independent stage. Dark stage or light independent stage. So only to get the difference, light stage or light dependent stage, from the word, from the name, this is the stage where light is used, and it cannot happen without light. So light energy is used up in this stage, and we will see why is light energy required there. Dark stage or the light independent stage, this is the stage that does not require light. So photosynthesis proceeds, but then it happens in the absence of light, and we'll see how that occurs. So we'll start by looking at the light dependent stage. The light dependent stage, this is the initial stage of photosynthesis, and it occurs in the grana. Grana, remember, grana is the plural of the word granum. So if it is one, we call it granum, but if there are many, we call them grana. So this is the initial stage of photosynthesis that occurs in the grana of the chloroplasts. During this stage, the chlorophyll molecules absorb light energy that is used in 2 ways. Okay? During this stage, the chlorophyll molecules absorb light energy that is used in 2 ways. The first way in which the light energy is used, the light energy here is used to split water molecules into hydrogen atoms and oxygen gas. And this process is called photolysis. You can be asked, what is photolysis? This process is called photolysis, not hydrolysis like some students always call it. It is photolysis, photolysis. Remember the word photo means light. Lysis is like breakdown, breaking down, okay? So photolysis is the process by which water molecules are broken down into hydrogen atoms and oxygen gas, and it occurs in the grana, okay? So as you can see, this is an equation that represents photolysis. So water here, remember water was one of the raw materials. Water here is broken down or is split into hydrogen and oxygen gas. So we have hydrogen atoms there and oxygen gas, and it occurs in light is what helps in the splitting, and light is absorbed by the chlorophyll here. So as you can see, the equation here represents the whole process. Okay. The next use of light energy there. Okay, before we look at the next light of energy, the next use of light energy there, the oxygen that is produced from the stage, the oxygen that is produced from the process of photolysis is released into the atmosphere, or it can be reused by the plant for the process of respiration. It can be recycled. So oxygen is a waste product. So it can be released from the body of the plant into the atmosphere, or it can be reused or recycled by the plant for the process of respiration. So the hydrogen gas that is also produced there is moved on to the next stage, which is a dark stage, where it will be used as the process of photosynthesis continues. So hydrogen produced is used in the dark stage of photosynthesis, okay? The next use of the light energy is, we're saying that some of the solar energy absorbed by the chlorophyll molecules is used in the formation of a high energy molecule called ATP, or adenosine triphosphate. Adenosine triphosphate. And adenosine triphosphate is also used, that energy rich molecule is also used in the dark stage. And we will be able to see the function of ATP, or adenosine triphosphate. So we are saying some of the energy molecule absorbed by the chlorophyll molecules is used in the formation of high energy molecule called adenosine triphosphate, which is used in the dark stage. So if you are asked, what is the function of light in the process of photosynthesis? Light has got two functions. Number one, it is used in the process of photolysis, where it splits the water molecules into oxygen and hydrogen. Apart from that, it is used in the formation of ATP, or adenosine triphosphate, which is used in the dark stage. Are we together? I want to believe we are together, okay? Very fast, I want to look at, I want to finish by looking at the light, the dark stage, or what we call the light independent stage. We only have 2 minutes left. So when we talk about the dark stage, or the light independent stage, this is a stage that does not require light. It is independent of light. It happens in the absence of light, okay? So this is the second stage of photosynthesis that takes place in the stroma of the chloroplast. Now, as we look at the dark stage, could you please be able to identify some of the differences between the light stage and the dark stage? So we stated that light stage takes place in the grana, or in the grana, while dark stage here, as you can see, takes place in the stroma, okay? So this is the second stage of photosynthesis that takes place in the stroma of the chloroplast, okay? During this stage, the hydrogen atoms from the light stage, are combined with carbon 4 oxide to form simple sugars such as glucose. Now, in the light stage, water was used. Carbon 4 oxide was not used. It is only water that was used in the light stage. Now, that carbon 4 oxide, which we said is also a raw material, is used in the dark stage. And what happens to it? It is combined. It is combined with the hydrogen atoms, which were formed in the light stage as a result of photolysis. Okay, so during this stage, hydrogen atoms from the light stage are combined with carbon 4 oxide to form simple sugars. Okay? Actually, the simple sugars are not formed immediately. The immediate products that are formed are some simple carbohydrates. So these carbohydrates, once they are formed, they undergo series of chemical reactions, which leads to the formation of a simple sugar. Okay? So this process proceeds irrespective of the presence or absence of light, whether there is light or not. Whether there is light or not, carbon dioxide will combine with hydrogen. And this is where the energy is used. The high energy molecule, which is called the ATP, is used. It is used to facilitate the formation of the simple carbohydrate, which is the glucose. Okay? So the energy for this reaction is provided by the ATP formed during the light stage. And this process is called carbon 4 oxide fixation. And it is enzyme controlled. So in the light stage, we saw a process called photolysis taking place. But in the dark stage, we have a process called carbon 4 oxide fixation, which is enzyme controlled. In other words, it is controlled by some enzymes. So some of the glucose formed during the dark stage of photosynthesis is used directly by the plants during respiration, while the rest is converted to starch for storage. And I want to ask a simple question. Why do you think glucose is converted to starch for storage? Why? Why do you think plants convert glucose into starch for storage? I will get the answer from Ernest Mumo shortly. But before that, let me just mention the last point here, which is fatty acids and amino acids are also formed in the dark stage of photosynthesis. Fatty acids and amino acids are also formed in the dark stage of photosynthesis. So I saw some 2 hands here. They have been lowered. Have they been lowered? Okay, who will respond to my question before we stop? Why do you think the plants store glucose in the form of starch? Joshua Macau. Joshua Macau, let me just find you in a minute. Okay, Joshua, can you hear me?
Yes, starch is osmotically inactive.
Starch is osmotically inactive. Good. Starch is osmotically inactive. So how is that? How does that help the plants? Still on you, Joshua Macau. This is, okay, Joshua Macau. Okay, I think without wasting time.
Yes,
Yeah,
well, the starch does not affect the concentration of the plant's cells up, hence does not drain water or lose any water.
Very good, very good. Okay, starch is osmotically inactive. You can just mute now, Joshua Macau, kindly. Thank you. Starch is osmotically inactive, and we know that. So it does not affect the concentration of the plant cells up. And this, therefore, does not affect the movement of water into the cell by either osmosis. Okay? Okay, Ernest has a question, but let me just stress on my question first. And starch is insoluble. So because the starch is insoluble, starch can be stored for future use. Glucose is soluble, and so it can dissolve and get used up immediately, while starch is insoluble, and so it can be stored for future use by the plant. Okay. Ernest, your question. I've seen 2 hands. I can't see the other person who raised the hand.
Excuse me, Cha.
Yes.
Apart from glucose dissolving into the cell sap or the cytoplasm, is there any other disadvantage when glucose is not converted into starch? What is the disadvantage when it creates osmotic pressure?
Oh, okay. So you see, the glucose, when it dissolves, when the glucose dissolves, it means it can be easily used up by the plants. But then when the glucose is converted into starch, the plant for future use, and then it can be used by the plants when there is need. This is unlike when the plants just leave the glucose without converting it. So it can easily dissolve. And when it dissolves, it means it can be easily used up. Just in a solution form, it can be easily used up. That is another reason, apart from the glucose being osmotically active, and therefore it can facilitate that continuous drawing of water from the adjacent cell. Okay?
Yes, but what is the problem if it draws water from other cells? What will happen? What will it affect a photosynthesis negatively, or what will happen?
Will it affect photosynthesis negatively or not?
Something like.
Okay, I'm trying to get your question. Now, in Form 2, the topic gaseous exchange, there are theories that explain the opening and closing of stomata, okay?
Yes.
One of them is the photosynthetic theory, and it explains clearly what happens when glucose is converted into starch, and when starch is converted into glucose. Actually, this is an enzyme-controlled process where glucose is converted to starch and starch back to glucose, okay? Now, the plants have got this mechanism of converting glucose to starch and starch to glucose. It is a process that must occur. It is a conversion process that must occur, because it also helps in that opening and closing of the stomata. Do you understand that, Ernest?
Yes.
Yeah. So when the plants fail to convert the glucose to starch and starch to glucose, then can you see that act of opening and closing of the stomata will be hindered? It will be interfered with. Okay.
Oh, yes.
Yeah,
so,
you get.
Yes,
So it can. Another question.
Okay, similar to what you have said. So
Yes.
can we say that also in Form 2, in the second one, the interconversion theory, can you also say that if glucose creates the osmotic pressure and then osmosis occurs, now the water molecules which will be drawn into the cell will now dissolve the glucose molecules, making them easily to be utilized by the cell?
Could you just repeat the question again from that point where water drawn into the cells?
I mean,
yes.
Glucose will it creates osmotic pressure, and then it draws water. The cell now draws water from the neighboring epidermal cells into itself by osmosis. So now, can we say because of the concentration of glucose, it's now the water molecules which are being drawn in now dissolves the glucose, thus making it to be easily utilized up?
Exactly. When more water is drawn into the cell, it means that the glucose will easily dissolve because of the high amounts of water which will now be present in the cells. Yes. So this will make the glucose to be easily used up. Okay.
Yes.
Remember, when the plants photosynthesize, they can make glucose in excess. So when the glucose has been manufactured, the plants will only use it when there is need for them to use it. So the ones that are in excess should be converted to starch for future use. You get?
Yes.
Yeah. So there'd be no need of plants to use all the glucose that are manufactured when they are likely to need it in the future, I mean. Okay?
Yeah.
Great. I saw other questions here, but unfortunately the students have lowered their hands. Please tell us the difference where light stage and dark stage takes place. Now, we said the light stage takes place in the grana, while the dark stage takes place in the stroma. Okay, that was a question from James. Someone is asking when I have a PDF for the KCSE made familiar. I don't have one, but I can get one very soon, and if I find it, as soon as I get it, I'll be able to share it, okay? or whoever has the PDF form of the KCSE Made Familiar Biology, you can share with your friends, or you can share it with me, then I'll be able to share with the rest of you, okay? We are 10 minutes late. I mean, we have taken 10 minutes past our class, and I'd want us to stop at that point. If there are more questions, like I always tell you, it is important you share. Just approach me, approach your teachers. You'll be easily assisted. I remember I shared my number with you people last in our last class. Just feel free to contact me, and I'll be able to assist you where necessary. Okay. So I said I'm going to share the notes with you, the ones that I've used for my class today with you. But again, even our previous classes were recorded, and I saw a link that was shared by the form master, Madam Gladys, on your WhatsApp groups. The recordings are available on YouTube. You can check out them. Tell your friends who did not attend the classes to look at them so that they can also be able to learn. Otherwise, allow us to end the class at that point, and you have a good day, and I wish you all the best even as you wait for your other classes. Thank you.